Alright, so I am beyond excited to meet with Joey Mitchell. You'll be seeing this book soon, and it should be taking over a whole lot of youth events. I would say it's something that every father should go through and read, every mother should consider reading also. And I think it should definitely be in the hands of our young men. So we're excited to have Joey Mitchell on the first day in the Lion's Den. I can't sing enough or say enough about who he is as a person, as an individual. And what I would say is, I think you need to go through and start paying attention to what he's written, but also as a different events where he's coming to your city or you see his stuff on social media. I think it will be a great thing to help fine tune the lion that is within you. So today, we'll start off with the topic, right? Saving the Forest is the name of the book, A Renewed Crusade in the Behalf of Our Young Sons, again by Joey Mitchell. It should be on Amazon and a lot of the other book medium sites coming soon. So we'll start off with the topic, because the most important message that I got when I read the book was The Cub Seeks the Lion.
Awesome.
I think it empowered me as it relates to who I am as a man, how I reconcile who I am as a father, and just more intimate level. Even though I'm growing into a strong man, it really helped me think through some of the past issues that I had growing up without my father, and how it kind of quickened me into recognizing that despite him not being there, I still can become the type of person I want. So I'll hit you with a message, or I'll hit you with a question, just so we can get our followers or the people who will be watching this on social media. What do you think happens when young women or young men grow up without lions in their lives?
What I think actually happens is that they're not protected. And any human being, or especially a young cub or a young lioness, needs to be protected during the period of time of their growth in order for them to be able to develop into that mature lioness or lion.
Okay. So I get the premise of protection, because when I was growing up, my dad wasn't there. So some things that I understand regarding the implications of not having my dad there, and then seeing my mom being beat up or abused by her boyfriends and stuff like that, I understand how it could cause some type of trauma, and for me as a young man. And I think that a whole lot of our women experience that too, or have experienced it, or some of our young boys are experiencing it. So they grow up without having a lion in their life, right?
Not protected,
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but let me go through and put this particular piece too, because one of the challenges, I'm not saying that not having a father figure in your life doesn't mean that your mom is not trying to protect you at the highest level. What I'm saying is that in growing up with a man in your life offers a different level of protection. So when we don't have a lion right in their life, they grow up without protection. What do you think that causes the young lion, the young cub, the young lioness? What is the implications, you think, on them?
Well, one of the things I can make clear is that the females do protect. So I don't want to make it so that they're not protecting. They are protecting. But what I'm talking about specifically is that a male needs a piece. There's some part of protecting society and his family that a lot of times there's a roar that comes out of a man that, even though it can come out of a female, it doesn't bring the same vibration. Mm-hmm. So that's the piece when I say that that roar inside of them needs to be protected for a period of time, so that they'll be able to develop that and not intimidate people when they are roaring.
So let me ask you a question, because a little bit before we talked a little bit about how, unfortunately, when young men, right, and to some extent I think young women too, end up becoming predators because of the lack of protection, right?
Right.
Can you expound on that?
From a male perspective, to me, this is my perspective on it from my 50 years of living and observation, is that when you don't become the lion, it's easier for you to become a predator.
Expound on predator. Help me process that.
The predator starts out as an innocent person and becomes a victim. And if somebody doesn't translate them to where they don't continue that, they wind up doing the same thing because they may think that this is just their normal way of life. And which really, if you look closer at it, it's really just a form of survival. But as a lion, you have to get past survival and get to where you're protected.
So one of the things, Lion King is going to be coming in, and that's like one of my favorite movies. So one of the things I think about when I hear the word predator, I think about Scar, right? I think it's about Scar in the sense that their capacity to protect never kicked in like Mufasa's capacity to protect. Because for some reason he was led to believe, and I don't know what happened to him as a cub, right? But obviously they were in some type of same hierarchy, right? But he was led to believe that everything was about him, right? And that it was more important for him to eat than the pride to eat. And that he wanted to continue that cycle, and he would do whatever, whenever, wherever he could to control and manipulate and to keep under his thumbs the lions that would grow up and be his adversaries. So talk to me a little bit about what do you think we can do, right, to go through and, most importantly, let's go through this part. Why now? Why is it now more than ever, right, that we go through and make sure that we're raising up strong lions?
One of the reasons because the more that we don't build up lions, then the more we create more predators. And in order, we don't actually stop predators, but we have to create lions. And as we create lions, then we create protection, then we create future lions, then we create future support for our female lions. And then in return, then we create future protection for our children and so on.
So one of the things is for all my academic people, you talk about social learning, right? So social learning means that whatever you see in your neighborhood, in your society, in your culture, you mimic the behaviors that you see, right?
Correct.
So one of the things that I hear you clearly saying is that if we go through and we raise young men up to be protected, then they will go through and mimic that behavior of protection, right?
For sure.
I think the challenge was, I remember back in the day, I was watching this single. The young girl was attacked by the guy at McDonald's, right? He had pulled her by the collar, and then she started fending him off, right? And I saw some young black males right there. So they didn't immediately step in. They kind of shooed her away, right? The challenge, I thought to myself, initially I was upset, right? Because I was thinking with a lion's mindset, they should have shut that down immediately when they grabbed her, because no lion allows any hyena to touch a lioness in his presence. Right. It is death. Right? Something is going to happen. Somebody is going to have to fear or will have to feel the wrath of the lion. So the challenge for me was when the young boys didn't step in the way that a lion did, I was frustrated, but then I remembered, right, that they may not have had a man to show them, right, how to conduct themselves when that lioness is facing, right, a hyena, and if they've never had anybody to protect them, right, then they don't understand the power of protection.
Right. So with that, and it goes pretty deep, because it's so important. When you say why now, I mean when we talk about why now, I mean yesterday now. And when I say why, and I say yesterday now, I mean Not when they're 5 or 6 or 7. I mean when they are born. From the time that they are born, you have to protect them. And you have to know, see, when you're a predator, you don't know when there's other predators around because you guys are in the same energy field. But when you're a lion, you can sense it. And so, to your point, sometimes if the person doesn't learn that vibration that comes from a lion early, they may not never get that vibration. That's why it's so important that they have to step up now and they have to understand how important it is right away from the time that that child is born. And once you get that child, and again, for the academics, I can't confirm it, but I think, by 6, we need to have that something has to be already in place by the time they get to 6 years old. And then after that point, now we just protect that piece. But that piece that happens between 0 and 6, that has to be protected at all costs, any means necessary. And then after that, then you can start developing and possibly allowing a little damage so that you can use it as a form of teaching. But if you let the certain damage happen prior to that, it can be eternal.
So I'm gonna give us 2 more minutes and we'll go through and wrap up for part of this session. Here's a message that I will kind of go through and send out to mothers who probably gonna be watching this or men who are watching it. I think it's important that we go through and say, as much as we stress how much your kids should know their ABCs, their 1, 2, 3s, I think culturally is important, right? I think manhood-wise it's important for them to recognize it is important that you go through and stand in who you are, right? You need to understand that you are responsible for being a great resource and a great protector for young females, and that's a message we got to get to our young boys at a very young age. Now, if you're a teenager, I'm not saying that it's impossible, and I don't think it's impossible, but you're going to have to put your kids around young men, right? Around men who are going to help cultivate the lion that is within them. So the same way you go back and you look for what is the new Pee Wee sports league, right? Or the basketball coach that does well, I want you to be intentional in how am I putting my son, right, around a man that demonstrates the importance of protecting and supporting people like himself in their community. Do you want to add anything to it?
Yes, I agree 100% that if they're at a teenage stage at this point, it's never too late for them to learn, but it's a different learning. So just like as if you didn't grow a leg when you was born, when you get older, you can get a prosthetic leg, but it won't be the same. So your training of walking and everything is going to be different. So you still can get it, but what we're saying is if you can catch it right in the beginning, then it'll be natural for them to do it. Whereas with a prosthetic leg, you're going to have to learn how to walk.
So let me
You understand what I'm saying?
I got it.
Yeah.
Can I send a message to the young men who are growing out there, probably 14, 15. So the young man is 18 and 20, right? I'll say this for your father who wasn't there or who was wounded, right? That tried to grow up to be the lion that he wanted to be, right? But in the process, because he was around predators, he mimicked some of the behaviors that he saw. So in the process of trying to protect you, he was so damaged within who he was and how he perceived himself that he didn't give it to you. But in spite of your daddy, what I want to tell you is you can't grow up and become the man that you long for. But you have to be intentional about who you hang around because you mentioned vibration or energy. So you know it, and I know it. When a lion steps in a room, he don't have to say too much.
No.
There's a certain way about how he conducts himself, right? It is not what type of watch he wears. It is not what type of clothes he has on. It is something that is intuitively about him that says, I am me, right? I'm confident in that. And that I'm not going to let anybody go through and displace who I am.
Right. And I will add too, that if you don't get it when you're young, The great thing about being a male is that the instinct is always inside of you.
Got it.
So the only thing you really have to do is that identify the instinct that's in you in someone else, and then once you identify it, then it's just the same as any other training. Just like as if you went to school to learn anything, you just have to put the hours in.
Got it.
So once you identify what you feel is right, then just start putting the hours in, and it will automatically happen. And the reason that you may not be comfortable is because you may be spending hours somewhere else.
Got it.
But it's just going to take a different training, but it's always doable.
It's always doable.
Yeah.
So this is part one of the Lion's Den with Joey Mitchell. Like we said, the book Saving the Forest. Man, I can't tell you how my eyes watered as I read certain section, and how it reaffirmed some of the smaller little Simba things in me that I wanted to kind of put together as I still grow into the man I want to become. So I would suggest you look at it, look at this series. We'll be coming back a little bit later to talk about more topics because to your point now, like yesterday, we have to go through and continue to raise up and empower our young men to take their rightful place in society.
Awesome. Anything else?
That's it. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you, brother.
All right.